evening, everyone. It's great to be back and to see so many familiar faces and actually to see some new faces in the crowd. We're here this evening for Lucky 13, our 13th year of offering this community reading event. And it is my pleasure to welcome you once again to the annual kickoff for One Book, One Region. I'm Betty Ann Reiter, Director of the Groton Public Library, and I've been a member of the Book Selection Committee for One Book since the beginning. Many of our committee members are here tonight, and I hope you'll join me in thanking them because this is really a group effort. Who would have imagined we'd still be going strong after 13 years? Maybe it's not too surprising, though, because we've had great community support, wonderful authors, and we've discussed important topics over the course of the project. And this year is no exception. Connecticut Humanities, which has generously supported the One Book project for the last few years, threw us a little curveball when they announced that this year they were looking to support One Book projects that had something to do with the topic of work. To give a little background, Connecticut Humanities is sponsoring a year-long statewide initiative to engage Connecticut residents in an in-depth exploration of work, how it has shaped our lives and our state over time, how it impacts our lives today, and how it might look in a future of technological and economic change. The centerpiece of this initiative is The Way We Worked, an exhibition that was created by the Smithsonian Institution that traces the history of work life in America, which is traveling to 7 sites across the state this year. It's ending its travels at the Groton Public Library in the months of November and December, so we hope to see you all there then. But that directive, choose a book about work, helped focus the committee. We could eliminate a lot of possibilities right away. And The Dirty Life by Kristin Kimball quickly rose to the top of our pile. Kristin's engaging memoir definitely exposes the hard work that goes into farming, but it's also a love story and a celebration of growing, preparing, and eating wonderful food. We really like the idea of looking at the demanding work of farming while exploring current topics like the local food movement and sustainable living. By now, I think most of you know how the One Book program works. We announce the title in the spring, we read the book over the summer, and meet the author in September. Local libraries offer book discussions and offer interesting programs related to the book throughout the summer. The Dirty Life will allow us to explore popular topics we haven't covered in our One Book series before. In Groton, we'll be offering programs on raising chickens, preserving the harvest, dyeing with natural plant dyes, and much more. There'll be lots going on across the region, so please contact your local library. This year, for the first time, we're very pleased to announce a new group of readers who will be joining us. Connecticut Humanities is providing funding that will allow us to purchase some copies of The Dirty Life for the women of the York Correctional Institution. They'll also be reading the book, participating in book discussions, and hopefully hosting a visit from Kristen in the fall. Once again, I want to thank Connecticut Humanities for their support and the Mystic Arts Center for allowing us to kick off our program in these beautiful surroundings. Bank Square Books is also a longtime partner. Their help, support, and contacts are vital to the success of the program. And I'd also like to say that we have a representative from Simon & Schuster, the publisher, here today, so it's great to have their support for our program tonight as well. We're going to start this evening's program with a short video clip to introduce you to Kristin Kimball. Please sit back and enjoy just a few minutes hearing about her transition from life in the big city to marrying a farmer.
The seed for Their Dirty Life was planted probably about 9 years ago. I was living here in New York and trying to make a living as a writer. And I read Eric Schlosser's book, Fast Food Nation, and I was fascinated by his sort of confirmation of what I suspected about the food system. But I had this lingering question of, okay, this is what's wrong with the food system, but what does it look like when people are doing it differently? So I started going to meet farmers and look at small farms, and I ended up at this little farm in Pennsylvania where this very tall and charismatic farmer was growing beautiful vegetables. And I just really liked his farm, and I asked him if I could write about it, and he sort of hemmed and hawed, and then he wrote me this note that said, he sort of listed all of his concerns, like, you might slow down our work, you might make us less efficient, and what if I fall in love with you? And we did fall in love, and we ended up leaving our respective lives and starting a farm together. And so the dirty life is about the transition between being a city person and being a farmer, and it's about the life that Mark and I made together on the farm. There was this lure of horses. We had decided to use draft horses to power our farm, and I was one of those girls who was totally crazy about horses when I was young. And so the idea of having horses and working with them on a daily basis was a great lure, and it worked. I had never even had a garden before, and so it was the first time that I experienced this miracle of putting a seed in the ground and seeing that, you know, you work really hard to give it the best shot, and 9 times out of 10 it does grow. And then there's the reward of having amazing food. I remember our first July, we had the traditional North Country meal of fresh peas cooked in milk with mint and the first new potatoes. And there's not a simpler dish out there, but I don't think you can find something more delicious than that either. I'd always been an active and physical person, but working physically with your body every day is a totally different thing, and so it's a skill. You have to learn, you know, how to use your body, how to lift something properly, how to know when to stop working, and just learning those skills can be incredibly painful. And so that was probably the very hardest part. CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and it's a relationship between a farmer and the people who eat from that farm. Most CSAs offer vegetables for a certain growing season. We kind of decided to tweak that model and provide a full diet for all of our members year-round. It's a very different business model for farms, but it's a very old-fashioned model for eaters. You know, it's pretty much the way that our great-grandparents grew up and ate. I miss most about the city my people. I miss my friends, I miss my sister. And in the city, you have, you know, friends who have the same education and interests and age as you are, and I miss that sometimes. But you don't get to change your life without letting go of some things.
And now it is my pleasure to introduce Amanda Fagan, who is the principal of Ledyard High School, who's going to talk to us a little bit about what goes on up there in their VOAG program, and who's also going to be interviewing Kristen. So, Amanda.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. In addition to Bank Square Books being here tonight, we do have a number of local farms represented. I know we have Cold Spring Farm in the house tonight and Huntsbrook Farm. We're also joined by Connecticut Farm Fresh. Are there any other farms or farmers represented? Tell us who you are, please.
I'm Peg Moran, and I run a flower farm in Pawcatuck. My business name is Friends in the Country.
Friends in the Country, a flower farm in Pawcatuck. Great, thank you. Thank you all for coming. Ledyard High School is really happy to be a bit of a partner in this adventure this year. As some of you may know, we are one of 19 agri-science and technology centers in the state. This means that encompassed within our high school is our agri-science and technology department, formerly referred to by many as the VOAG department. We've sort of evolved with the years, embracing the science and technology elements there. But we accept application students from 12 surrounding towns, in addition to accepting students from Ledyard, and this ends up with our having a student population within the agri-science program of nearly 240 students, which is fully a quarter of the students at Ledyard High School are enrolled in agri-science. We have 5 teachers within the program, should be more, but we have 5 teachers within the program, and 5 specialty areas. Our students in the first 2 years really get a taste of everything. And as they evolve into their junior and senior years, they begin to specialize in the areas that are most appealing to them. They can choose to focus in agricultural mechanics. They can look at animal science, plant science, aquaculture, or finally natural resources. And this means that they work in the classroom, of course, getting general content information, but also in the labs or in the field, and I mean that both literally in the fields, but out in the work environment, focusing in this unique hands-on type of education that you can't get anywhere else around here. Our students do everything from raise sheep, pigs, goats, alpacas, calves, chickens, chinchillas, to growing herbs, flowers, and vegetables in our greenhouses. They raise tilapia, catfish, and ornamental koi in our aquaculture lab. They learn welding, small engine work, safe tractor operations, and they deal with soil. They look at soil composition, fertilization, optimization for growing, for beds, for planting, for building. Really lots of absolutely authentic skills that our kids are learning under the direction of 5 really committed and really talented teachers. In addition, within our agri-science program, we offer 5 UConn early college experience courses. So they're taking a class at Ledyard High School that also earns them UConn credit, collegiate credit. And they compete around the state. Just today, we sent students off to compete in the Vet Tech CDE, or Career Development Experience, or Career Development Event, rather. And they range in categories from public speaking, where we had the state champion 2 years ago, to forestry, to floral art, to safe tractor operations, the competition for which we just hosted last weekend. They put on a horse show, we run a plant sale, and we are the first high school in the world to earn certified humane status for our pigs, our sheep, and our laying hens. So it's a really exciting program. And I would just give a shout out to my agri-science department chair, Shelley Roy is in the audience, as well as our current FFA president, Rebecca Burton, and one of our rising stars, sophomore Cheyenne White. They're back there looking very meek and mild, and they would not draw any attention to themselves. So needless to say, when our school librarian, Sue Lantelmi, who has also long been involved in the One Book, One Region process, shared with us the book selection for this year, we were really excited. And our agri-science department has an advisory committee comprised of representatives from all of our sending towns, but also local farmers and artisans who are also very excited. And we're going to have the opportunity to host the event in the fall, which we'll talk about a bit more at the end. But I know you're not really here to hear about Ledyard High School's agri-science department. You're really here to hear from Kristen Kimball. So we're going to connect with her. She's been creeping in the background listening to all of this, but we will get to see her face here. And I have some questions to kind of start us off, but I am sure that many of you have questions as well, and if that's the case, just raise your hand, get my attention. I'll probably have to repeat your question so that Kristen can hear, but I know she's excited to speak with us, and we're excited to speak with her.
Okay.
There she is. Hi, Kristen. Welcome. So not so long ago, you were a single 30-something freelance writer living in New York City and using your refrigerator largely for storage. And now you're a married mother of 2. You're maintaining a 500-acre farm that feeds 200 member families year-round. Can you walk us through the events that kind of sparked this transformation for you?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here tonight virtually, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all in the fall. We've been here a little over 2 years now. Wow. So my old life in the city feels like it was half a life ago at this point. It's been, it's, you know, middle of our spring season right now, and spring is always an intimidating time of year. I'm going to turn my volume down a little bit because there's a really, really loud echo. I'm in trouble. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I was a writer before I was a farmer. Writing is still very much a part of my life. But my day really is caught up in this great drama of farm, which you can see a little corner of in the background, I hope. Right before we connected tonight, there was a beautiful rainbow that was arching right over our main field, and I was hoping that we would catch a glimpse of it, but I think it's gone by now. You were talking about your program, your agri-science program. I got so excited I really could listen to you talk about it all night, because one of our big pushes now at the farm is training young farmers. And we're finding a lot of young people who are really eager to come into this life and this sector that we've been working in, but who lack the very skills that you're teaching in your school. And it's so exciting that you're preparing these people to come out and grow food for a market that's very eager to have them.
Great. So you, Mark, own Essex Farm, obviously, and you know, the whole premise really of the book and of your farm, of course, is that you've cultivated this CSA, a community-supported agriculture. And it's one of, if not the first of its kind, in that it's not just the usual vegetable share. There's more to it than that. Can you tell us what sets your farm apart from the traditional CSA model?
Sure. When we set up here 10 years ago, I really didn't know what we were getting into. Mark had this dream that we would grow all of the food that we wanted to eat. So that included not just vegetables, which is the traditional model, but meats, beef, pork, chicken, eggs. We grow our own grains. We milk a herd of 19 Jersey cows. We tap our sugar bush, so we have maple syrup also. And really, we keep a very interesting kitchen 12 months a year for our 200 members and our family and our employees. So the radical part of the model was that instead of just doing vegetables, we really wanted to see what it would be like to be an absolutely local source of a full diet for the people around us. And we wanted to do it year-round. And so far, it's working. We are never bored in the kitchen. None of our members go hungry, and there's never a dull day here. Some days are more stressful than others, especially this time of year. But it's a very interesting challenge to be as wildly diversified as we are.
That's great. And you do all of your own processing on site, is that correct?
That's correct, yes. We slaughter here on farm, and we have a butcher shop on farm, and that's where we break down our cuts, and then our members come here on Fridays to pick up their food for the week. The other sort of radical part of the model that I didn't mention before is that it's free choice and unlimited for our members. So the members pay us the price of the share at the beginning of the year, and then they come to the farm each week and they take whatever they want in any quantity or any combination. So if a family, drinks a lot of milk, they can take a lot of milk. If they need a lot of eggs, they take a lot of eggs. If there's families who live mostly on vegetables, then they load up on vegetables. But it was interesting to cut the ties between, the sort of typical CSA box and let people have free choice of whatever they wanted for the week. And for us, that's worked out really well.
That's impressive. You mentioned that no one's ever gone hungry, which is always a positive. But surely you've been impacted by things like, difficult winters, 2 gigantic hurricanes. How does that impact, your farm production, but also what you're able to put out to the members?
That's the beauty of being highly diversified. Yes, certainly we've had years. In fact, right now we're having an egg shortage. We had a bad problem with predation last fall, so our egg-laying flock is smaller than it usually is. And production went down this spring for some reason. Usually it comes right back up when spring hits. So we're really low on eggs. But on the other hand, our grass is absolutely beautiful right now. And so the cows are pumping out insane quantities of beautiful, beautiful milk. So no, nobody's making omelets, or maybe 1 omelet a week in our membership right now, but they have this beautiful milk that they can, really make good use of, and lovely, lovely meat this time of year. So if it's a terrible year for one thing, it's generally a pretty good year for something else. The last 3 years have been extremely wet, so challenging on the vegetable side, but those wet years have made for really good pasture. So our meat and our hay and our dairy cows have done very well. So that's one of the nice things about being highly diversified. It's a hedge against all of those things that all the farmers in your audience know all about. The uncertainty of weather, the things in nature that we can't control. At least with extreme diversity, we get to, do well in one category if we're doing poorly in the other.
Right, good. The amount of work in this, I mean, it just has to be staggering, and those of us who have read the book know how exhausting that first year was. You have been able to expand your staff, now in real time, but in the book it was largely just you and Mark trying to do this on your own, and you noted in the book that your own father, he was sad to watch you work so hard for something that he was certain would fail. And you asked, you had to muster up the courage to ask Mark. I just have a quote from the text. You wrote, in his view, we were already a success because we were doing something hard and it was something that mattered to us. You don't measure things like that with words like success or failure, he said. Satisfaction comes from trying hard things and then going on to the next hard thing regardless of the outcome. What mattered was whether or not you were moving in the direction you thought was right. So what was it, or what is it about this endeavor that makes it right for your family?
Well, I'll say first of all that the way that we worked the first 3 years before we had anyone on staff as a paid employee, it was not sustainable. We could not have sustained that level of work physically, emotionally, and then we had children, so that changed the balance of the way that we spend time in our family also. I'm really glad that we had those 3 years because I know now where my edge is, and I don't necessarily ever want to go back to that level of work again. I don't think I physically could do it at this point. Both Mark and I have had injuries in the last few years that make it really more difficult for us to sustain that level of physical work.
Sure.
But I'll tell you what makes it right and why it still feels good. Every person who's come to work here has told me the same thing, and I feel this myself, so I feel like I'm not crazy. Number one is farming means that I can work outside, and working outside is very simple. Working outside makes me happy. Everybody who comes to work here says that thing, and it sounds so simple, but it's not nothing. It's really kind of profound to know about yourself that there's a type of work that makes you more happy than another type of work, and for me, that's farming. The second thing is that I think because we do this radical model and we use horses and we're really exploring the edge of what can be done toward fossil fuel-free farming, it means that there's a sort of purpose to our day when we get in the morning. We're exploring this place that is sort of new territory for, I think, where we are in American agriculture right now. And it's a lucky place. We're in this sort of confluence where there's a ready market to buy the kinds of food that we're producing. And there's this tremendous energy among young people who want to come out and do the same things that we're doing. And then the last thing that makes it feel good is that we get to feed people amazing food and we get to eat it ourselves. And at the end of the day, when I think of what we've done as a group here on the farm, those are all really satisfying things, and it helps me sleep well. So that's why it still feels good.
Yeah, the passion you have for what you do is obvious, and it's really palpable to us as the audience. But shifting gears, but still talking about passion, it was an inkling of passion for Mark that helped you begin this journey. You mentioned earlier that you first met him because you intended to interview him. But what was it that drew you to him as more than just the subject of a story? And he became the subject of your story.
It's very, very unprofessional of me as a writer. Mark's passion is contagious. And he so clearly loved life and what he was doing with his particular corner of the world. I found that incredibly attractive, and I still do. He still has that. All these years in, and after setbacks and injuries and difficult years and financial struggle and all the rest of it, he still has that, and I still find it incredibly attractive, and I feel very lucky that against every odd in the world, I ended up on his place at a time in my life where you know, I could take on that challenge with him. Plus, he was cute.
Readers will learn that, you know, you certainly faced your farming struggles, but also your relationship struggles in that early time. You know, I'm sure that has evolved. What are the challenges that you face as a couple when you're also co-workers and business partners and now parents? You know, it's become ever more complex as this journey has continued.
Yeah. I think we probably both underestimated the complexity that children would add to our lives in the farm. I had this vision that, you know, I would give birth in the field and continue hoeing. And that did not happen. Our children are 3 and 6 now, so they need slightly less of me now than they did, you know, 2.5 or 3 years ago. And they're starting to get to an age where I can take them along with me and get meaningful work done. Today we had a pig who was lame, and I was able to put my 3-year-old on the pony and ride down to the pig pasture and see, you know, what was up with the pony, and we could do that together and have a really good time. But the last few years have been a real struggle, as every working mother knows, to find the balance between what you're giving your children and what you're giving to your job and to your marriage. You know, it's a juggling act. For sure. And it's no different here on the farm.
Right. It's interesting you mentioned that, you know, perpetual give and take. Just another passage from the book you wrote. A farm is a manipulative creature. There is no such thing as finished. Work comes in a stream and has no end. There are only the things that must be done now and things that can be done later. The threat the farm has got on you, the one that keeps you running from can until can't, is this: do it now, or some living thing will wilt or suffer or die. It's blackmail, really. Does that continue to ring true for you, both as a farmer and as a mom?
Yes, but less so because we're not in it alone anymore. You know, we have 5 strong, able-bodied people who are working full-time with us. This summer, we'll have an additional 9. So it doesn't feel like, you know, a single-person sport anymore. It's a team sport. And so that feeling that, you know, if I don't do this before I sleep, something's going to die,
right,
is now spread out among all the other people that now feel that.
So given that you have some help on the farm now, and that your family is growing, but how has your role evolved? So how, in terms of active day-to-day farming, how has your role evolved?
It has shrunk considerably, and I really do miss it. You know, I just have to accept that I'm in a slightly different phase of my life now. And the beautiful thing is that I get to pick and choose a bit the projects that I want to work on. So we added sheep to our farm livestock mix this year, and the sheep are kind of my pet projects. I really, really love working with them. And in the old days, you know, I wouldn't have been able to focus on the sheep as much as I've been able to the last couple of years, because there were so many other things that just had to be taken care of. But I can do that now. Mark and I also spend a good part of our time just in management and you know, trying to make sure that all the people who are working here are on track and happy and fulfilled in their work, and that the finances are coming out on the right side of zero. We have a big budget now, so we can't make a big mistake financially without it having really long-term repercussions for us and the people who work for us. So a lot more management, a little bit less field work, but also getting to pick and choose what I work on. Nice.
So it's fair to say that you completely redefined your life, you know, and you've said that now that's 10 years ago. It feels like that was a lifetime ago. For your faithful readers, it was just moments ago that happened. But, you know, the book itself is evidence that you've maintained some vestiges of that old life. You know, you continue to write. So can you talk to us about how that work has evolved, not the farm work, but the writing work? You know, sort of what was your focus in the past when you were, you know, New York City girl, freelance writing, as opposed to what type of projects you're taking on now?
In my city days, I was primarily a travel writer, so I wrote for travel magazines and travel guides. the lovely thing about this shift in my life is that I feel like I got to apply all of those skills that I used as a travel writer to writing about farming. They're not so different, you know, writing about a place, a geographical place that's foreign to most people, to most readers,
Right.
involves trying to make it come alive so that your reader can see it and feel it and smell it. And writing about farming is the same. My life and what I write about is all very sensual. You know, it's all about what I see and feel and touch and do all day. So I think I got to apply the same skills to trying to make this place accessible to readers who might wonder what it's like. It's interesting because I find that some of my readers are, you know, people in their 70s or 80s who grew up on farms. And after a reading or after an event, they'll come up to my table and they'll just want to tell me about what it was like when they were growing up and what they saw in my book that was similar. And I feel when I meet those people like I'm meeting somebody from my home country that, you know, that understands the sort of the same strange esoteric problems that we all face in the field. And even if it happened in their childhood and it was 60 or 70 years ago, they're all very alive and real to them, and it's a lovely thing to be able to share that.
It sounds lovely. You mentioned the word sensual about, you know, what you do both as a writer and as a farmer is, you know, very much related to the senses. And, you know, it's very true for the members of our audience who haven't yet had the chance to read the book. There's, you know, passages even as ugly, and I'm using air quotes, as ugly as, you know, weeds consuming a field, you know, ahead of your grasp. It's a lovely description, you know. There's a certain poetry to the nature that you're immersed in every day, which I imagine appeals a bit to that creative side of yours. So tell us, what's next for Kristin Kimball, author, and what is next for Essex Farm?
Well, Kristin Kimball, author, is slowly working away at a sequel to the first book. I've been keeping really good notes for the last few years, even when I don't have time to actually, you know, sit down and write in a structured way. I have great journal entries and notes for what's been happening here since the end of the last book. I'm going away for a month to a writer's colony in the fall,
Nice.
which I'm hoping will, you know, just give me the chance to really focus on the next project, and I'm really eager to get down and work on it. As far as the farm goes, we have launched a nonprofit called the Essex Farm Institute, which is a training program for young farmers who are interested in diversified, sustainable agriculture, and also doing research on what we actually mean by sustainable agriculture. It's a very slippery word, that word.
Right.
And so we've sort of jumped into this nonprofit world, which is new to us and exciting and interesting, but a whole new kettle of fish to learn. This is my dog, Mary.
Hello. Hello, dog. I'm going to turn to the audience here. We have quite a sizable crew here gathered to hear you speak and see if any of the members of our audience have some questions for you now that they've had the chance to listen to you a bit. Audience, questions for Kristin or her dog? Yes, go ahead.
Has Essex Farm inspired other CSAs to expand their offerings?
Great question. The question is whether your enterprise at Essex Farm has inspired other CSAs, you know, whether in your immediate vicinity or just that you know through the interweb world, to kind of follow in your steps.
Yes, I mean, I can't take credit for us entirely inspiring that, but there was an article in the Washington Post, I guess it was last fall, talking about 3 or 4 new full diet year-round CSAs in the Washington area, and all of them had mentioned us as their reason for, you know, leaping into this crazy world. I know there's a farm in Oregon that's doing it. We have several people who used to work for us who've started very similar farms, either in the same region or in other places. I think what's happening with CSA right now is wildly exciting. You know, that the model has changed so much in the years since the 1980s when it sort of arrived in this country from Japan and Europe. And we're seeing so many entrepreneurial, energetic, savvy young farmers coming into the industry that I cannot wait to see what's going to happen to the model and the tweaks that they put on it in the next 10 years. I think what we're seeing is that consumers want more choice. There are more small farms in most regions now that are offering high quality food to people who want to buy it. And consumers are beginning to want to have a bit more choice. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with our model. I don't know if we'll need to tweak it in the next few years ourselves. We've added a farm store, which you can kind of see behind me, right there.
Yep.
We never did any retail before last year, but we decided to add a farm store this year to give people who are not members a chance to buy our food retail. And that's working out well for us so far.
Great, thanks. Other questions from the audience? The woman in the lime green, the mint green shirt there, in the beginning of the back row. Yep, that's you.
I'm wondering in the sequel that you're writing if you would consider including some pictures. I know when I was reading your book, I was thinking, oh, what does this wonderful man look like?
I'm not sure you heard that. She said she was wondering if in your sequel you might consider including more pictures. As she was reading The Dirty Life, she found herself wondering what this wonderful man looked like.
Yeah, we'll include, you know, bare naked pictures next time.
Excellent.
There are a few pictures in the paperback version, and yeah, it's up to really the publisher, and I hope that that's something that they would consider next time. We certainly have beautiful material here to work with, and the farm most days is a fairly photogenic place, so yeah, I'd love to do that.
Excellent, thank you. Other questions? I saw someone in the front part here. Yes, in the blue scarf.
Do they do tours?
Do you do tours of your farm?
We do. We're offering, I believe, 5 tours this summer. The first one is coming up on May 24th, and they're all listed on the events page of my website, which is KristenKimball.com.
Great, thank you.
We love doing tours.
So good. In the back?
I wonder if she could update us on her relationship with her father after that start.
He wants to know if you would consider updating us on your relationship with your father after he was convinced you would be doomed to fail.
My father is amazing. He's so great. And the life that we have here is never the life that he would have chosen for me. And I'm not sure he sees in it what I see. But he loves me and is supportive of everything that we do here and is so proud of our successes. He's one of my most dedicated fans. And he loves the farm note especially, and he has his own private list. He likes to get the scoop, so he asks me to send it to him early so that he can send out the farm note to his own little list of 20 people so that he gets credit for it. So he's extremely supportive and has been, ever since he got over the shock that this is what I chose.
Very cute. Other questions from our audience tonight? Yes.
If you were, as a consumer, interested in purchasing your product, where do you look? Where do you start? Where are your outlets? Who's selling your sustainable foods?
Okay, great question. He was wondering if he was interested in purchasing your product. Do you provide to any outlets, or is it strictly based on the membership and the farm store right on the property?
Right now it is either through our share or here on the farm through our farm store. We've been toying with and thinking about the idea of adding New York City share, but it's complicated and we're taking it slowly, one step at a time. We've definitely felt that our particular local market has become pretty much saturated at this point. There are several farms that have started up around us in the last 10 years. And I don't think that our farm share is going to be growing too much at this point. Mm-hmm. So thinking down the road, we're considering other markets. But right now, everything is based here on the farm.
Good, thanks.
Yeah.
Other questions? Yes.
Do you work with local chefs to make the most out of the produce that you have that is in? Because sometimes you say certain produce does not come in.
She was asking if you work with local chefs to make the most out of the produce that does come in. Sometimes you, right, you know, in terms of providing recipes or, you know, helpful hints for your share members.
A little bit we do. A little bit we do. We find that our style of farm is not perfectly suited to restaurant supply. Chefs at restaurants really want a very predictable supply of very uniform food. And our model, we're aiming to fill the bellies of families. And those two things turn out to not be exactly the same thing. We have some quite adventurous chefs around us who are interested and do work with us. But that's not the main part of our business. We do a lot with school districts. We supply the vegetables for 2 different school districts in our area, as well as some other products that we produced here. And that's been a really interesting and different path. I think we've been doing that for 3 or 4 years now. And it's great to be able to send all of the bumper crops on to the school district where, you know, they are actually human beings in the kitchen putting up, you know, 500 ears of corn or, you know, 50 quarts of tomatoes or whatever it is to be able to use through the course of the year. And that really comes through a very dedicated person who wanted to see local food in the local school lunches.
That's great. You got quite a chorus of approving murmurs at that news. Related to the recipe...
I'm going to send a shout out to Julie Holbrook because she's the lunch lady that made it happen.
Excellent. Related to that recipe question that was just asked, can you tell us a little bit about your farm notes? You can see them on your website and you do allude to them in the book itself. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Since our very first distribution 10 and a half years ago, I've written a weekly note to the membership to tell them what has happened on the farm that week. Sometimes they include recipes, sometimes they're just stories. But we found that with our CSA, our members are just as interested in the narrative, in the drama, in, you know, being connected to the story of how their food is produced as they are in the food itself. And so the farm note has been that connection. It's really nice for me too to have a record of, you know, what has happened every week for the last 10 years and to be able to compare what happened this week, 2 years ago and 3 years ago and 4 years ago. It's a great thing. It's a great thing for me to have as well.
Nice.
And they're all posted on my website and sometimes there's pictures there too.
Good. And good fuel for the future book as well.
Exactly. Yes.
Other questions from the crowd? Yes, go ahead.
Europe seems to be more successful in sustainable farming in the United States. What are they doing differently? The regulations that they have in Europe that allow for more small farms? Or is it just...
Great. The question was, we had an excellent close-up of your mouth there.
I know, I'm running into it. I had to go into the office because I'm running out of batteries on my computer.
The question was that Europe seems to be very successful with this model of, you know, smaller share orchestrated farms, and he was wondering what it is that they're doing differently there. Are there different regulations, different policies, abundance of small farms that seems to make them more successful than we in that realm?
I'm a little bit out of my depth with that question because I'm not an expert on farm policy, but I do know that subsidies work very differently in Europe than they do here. Mm-hmm. You know, here we subsidize commodities, and there they subsidize sort of the way you farm a little bit differently from the way that we do it here. The thing I think that has allowed the growth of small farms here in America in the last few years has really been this inventive and really powerful shift toward direct marketing. So farmers, instead of selling to milk cooperative are selling to their customers, which allows us, that's just an example, but that allows us to set the price and have more control of how we do business and keep more of the profit. So I think that's the key to how we've been able to expand the number of small farms in the last few years, which really goes against the conventional wisdom of, small farms are dying, blah, 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 that we've been hearing for the last 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we're nearing the end of our time with you. Just wanted to ask the audience a few more. Yep, go ahead, sir.
I wonder if that same theme, what are they doing regarding the green movement? In particular, is the tractor on the way out, and are they still plowing the fields?
That's a great question. He was wondering, I actually happened to see this in your farm notes, but he was wondering what you were doing in terms of the green movement. So looking not just at, sustainable, agriculture, but also sustainable energy. He was wondering if the tractor is on the way out. We never really touched upon the fact that your farm is largely horse-powered. Maybe just some words about what you're doing in terms of the green movement.
Sure, yeah. I could talk a long time about that, and I won't. But here's the struggle that we've come upon after doing this for several years. In trying to find a balance between social and economic justice and make that balance out with, with environmental and social justice, and trying to balance that out with economic reality of, how do we make a farm that is sustainable year to year, because we can't be sustainable if you're losing money every year. And that's really sort of the problem that we're looking at right now, and part of the reason that we started the Essex Farm Institute was to try to wrestle with those issues. We think horses are a great way to farm. They are certainly not the most profitable way to do anything. It can take 10 times longer to plow a field with horses than it would with a tractor. But we're still doing it. We have 9 working draft horses this year. This time of year, we usually have 2 teams out all day long from dawn until the end of the day. We also have tractors and make use of those too. We have 3 tractors on the farm, and they're pressed into service this time of year. Our goal is to see if there's a way to make a fossil fuel-free form of agriculture in our lifetime. And it's exciting to think about what that might look like, and to employ new technologies and old technologies toward that end.
Great.
I hope that answered his question.
I think it did. Thank you so much. Anybody have the capper question? One last parting thought from Ms. Kimball? Yes, in the blue scarf. Go ahead.
Does the family ever take a vacation?
Oh, great question. The question was whether your family ever gets to take a vacation.
Usually Mark and I take somewhat separate vacations because if you both leave the farm at the same time, anybody in the audience who's a farmer knows this, if you both leave the farm at the same time, the farm knows, and it does something really bad to bite you when you're both gone. Mark and I always try to get away in the winter, just the 2 of us too, just for a day or an overnight or something. We often go to Montreal, which isn't too far away, just to have a little bit of a taste of the outside world together when the farm is asleep, usually in February. Most things are asleep.
Great. We really, truly...
But it's a pretty...
No, go ahead. You go.
I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry.
That's okay. We really appreciate your having been here with us this evening. We know how precious your time is given your many, many jobs. But we appreciate your being here. We cannot wait to see you in person in September. And I can tell you, you have a full house of readers here who, if they've not already read the book, are itching to get their fingers on it and to find out about this Mark fellow. And all of the excitement that happens on Essex Farm. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to see you in the fall.
I wish I was the smart tech person who would know if you should hang up or I should hang up. But you can hang up on us. We won't be offended.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
So that was great. So you've all had a little taste of her personality, some ideas about what her farm is like. I want to just bring up two special guests. They have a few quick words for us. Deb Marsden from Connecticut Farm Fresh and Jess Stone from Cold Spring Farm to share a few things with you.
Hi. That was really amazing. I wish I was going to school in Ledyard too. So I'm Connecticut Farm Fresh, and I represent about 40 to 60 farms depending on time of the year. You go to the website, which is ctfarmfreshstore.com, and you place your order from Thursday to Tuesday. I call the farms and we relate the order to them on Tuesday. We pick up fresh food on Wednesday and we deliver it to your home. And we do this all year long, and we deliver all over the state of Connecticut, and we represent farms mostly in Connecticut, but some all over New England. I'm here with Jess Stone because she also is from East Haddam, and we are partnership this year to do a CSA, which we'd like to deliver down to the bookstore for you guys, because it's not always easy to get to the farm at a certain time, which is what CSA means. You have to be at the farm to pick up your order. So this year we're going to try to get them delivered to people's homes. What else?
But in addition to CSA, Deb's business, Connecticut Farm Fresh Express, represents all kinds of other products that I don't grow on our farm, but you can get from lots of other wonderful farms, which she has referenced, not to mention other products from artisans, bread makers, soap makers, cleaning products, things like that as well.
Eggs, all sorts of meats.
Right. So you can actually order a CSA share from Cold Spring Farm, known as Common Ground CSA, the enterprise name, on her website, and you can get the vegetables, the fruits, the herbs, the flowers, everything delivered to your doorstep in a cooler by Deb. And in addition to that, you can order your milk, your beef, your eggs, your other products on her website and have everything right there at your feet.
So we're doing something similar to what they're doing, but we're involving many farms, which is helpful to the farmer because, first of all, they are doing what they want to do, is staying on the farm and farming, because we go to them. And the second thing is that they only pick what we've ordered. So in a situation where they go to a farmer's markets, they pick a tremendous amount of things and lay it out in front of you and hope that they sell it. And if they don't, then what do you do with it? But what we do is we say, okay, we need 20 heads of lettuce, and they pick those 20 heads of lettuce, and we come and pick it up and we deliver it to your door.
So you know that it's been harvested within 24 hours of you receiving it.
Fresh.
Right, that's as fresh
Farm
as it really
fresh
gets, and you don't
express.
have to make the drive yourself, so you're reducing lots of fuel expenses, kind of reducing that fossil fuel dependence that Kristen had talked about, and you're having one person streamline and go around and pick up all of this stuff from the farm so that hundreds of you aren't doing that very same thing, because you can imagine the impact that would have. And it's also about access, so if you don't live right near the farm, which a lot of us don't, you have a way to get that food and eat well.
Do you have to order every week?
Well, we have a standing order, 6 weeks or 12 weeks, and we would put the order in for you and we would deliver it to your door. But yeah, you could order every week if you wanted to.
Or you can order in advance and get a bulk discount rate for ordering in advance. So my CSA members for Common Ground CSA, which she does offer delivery for, buy 20 weeks of produce, herbs, and flowers to be delivered to their doorstep. So you can do a number of different things. You can order weekly through her website. You can order for 6 or 12 weeks, or you can order for 20 weeks.
Yep.
Do you have any outlets in the farm markets, Donington Farm Market, Mystic, or Fiddleheads?
Outlets are farms that we represent.
Yeah, for this farm.
We represent some farms that are in most of the markets across the state. That's another outlet for them. I'm not a farmer, so I'm just a purveyor.
So Bank Square Books, right down the road from here, is actually going to be providing the house for the CSA deliveries by Connecticut Farm Fresh Express on Wednesday evenings starting in a couple weeks, actually.
Yeah.
So you can actually go to the bookstore on a Wednesday evening and pick up your share of food right in that location. And I'm probably guessing that for a lot of you, that's not far away.
Plus, you can add to any of the orders, because anything that's available on our website will be delivered at the same time that you're doing the CSA.
You can get your vegetables, your herbs, flowers, and fruits, and then she can also bring you your milk and meat and other things for the week, right at the bookstore.
Yes.
Are the farm products organic, or are they?
They're certified organic, organically grown, or Farmer's Pledge. My feeling is that if a farmer does not want to go through the political part of being a certified organic farmer, but grows organically, I'm supporting them. So none of the farms that I support are spraying pesticides all over their field. So you can feel safe that they're organically grown.
And
or
Cold
beyond
Spring
organic.
Farm, right, so my farm is actually beyond organic, which means that we don't subscribe to the certification program because, well, we don't really want to pay for it, but the real reason is because we don't actually agree with the standards. Our focus is on soil health, and we believe that our products, our food, is a byproduct of really good soil. And so that's what our focus is on, is the health of that soil, and we get great results. And so we call ourselves beyond organic because we do not, there's not a pesticide, our only input is compost. And we make it ourselves on the farm from our own products, so everything comes full circle.
Yep.
Could you give us the reference again, or the website? So
ctfarmfreshstore.com.
And actually, we left information on the back table. There's a flyer back there that represents both Cold Spring Farm and Connecticut Farm Fresh Express.
And there's business cards there, too. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for being here. We certainly thank Amanda for conducting our interview. And we do have several farmers who are represented here tonight and who have left some things on the back table. So we ask you to support some of our local farms, since most of us are not going to be able to get to Essex Farm. So we wanted to bring it a little more local for you. I hope you enjoy reading the book over the summer. Kristen will be at Ledyard High School on September 13th at 10 a.m. It's going to be a great day at Ledyard High School. They're going to do a kind of a little agricultural fair. And so I think it's going to be a kind of a different finale for One Book this year. So please put that on your calendar, September 13th, and we hope to see you then. Thank you.